All right. Hey, everyone. That was the artist Goose and their songs Wisteria Lane and So Ready. So let's see what we see in the lyrics here. So the first one I played, Wisteria Lane. Now, wisteria, as far as I know, I believe is a type of flower. It's like a purple. Yeah, it's a purple flower. So Wisteria Lane, the lane to the purple, right? So that's what they're referring to here is this this path and this way, as it speaks more about that. So just going through the lyrics here, resting on a cornerstone. And what's a cornerstone? It's like it's like what holds everything together. It's a turning point. You know, you turn the corner. So resting on a cornerstone at that point of turning around. A building in the haze, so still in obscurity, still in confusion, but coming out of it. The sky was bringing hell on us, so realizing that, I thought that we'd be saved, floating on a marshmallow sea. Rather here, not far from me, so floating on a marshmallow sea. So I see this as like entering into meditation and that space where no one can harm you or do anything to you or make you do anything. At sudden moment was a crash, echoed out an evil laugh. Visions of a membrane vast, concepts relate and contrast. So there's a lot going on here in these lyrics, but I see this as like the concepts relate and contrast. So it's sort of examining the duality of this experience, maybe, and sort of realizing that. And then they say, if only there was a way that I could bring you there today. So the way, you know, the Christed way, to connect with Source, to connect with you, to connect with, that I could bring you there. And because we can't bring anybody else. It's a solo journey. The signs look different on Wisteria Lane. So when we go there, Wisteria Lane, that lane lined with purple flowers going to the purple, the crown, something about them just isn't the same. And only time will tell when you will return down the pathway to the great beyond. So these fleeting glimpses we have to this heavenly realm, this heavenly reality, Wisteria Lane, only time will tell when you will return. We can't really like force it to happen. We can't make it to happen. It's not about that. You can't take heaven by force. So this is about allowance, surrendering. So returning from the future with a phosphorescent glow. So the Bodhisattva, the Christed being who chooses to return, returning from the future with a glow. Knowledge is the pathway to each and every soul. So knowledge or gnosis, Jesus was a Gnostic, Yeshua was a Gnostic. So he taught gnosis, knowledge, not blind belief in external power, but internal knowledge, gnosis, because that's the pathway to each and every soul. Brandishing a veil of light on the footsteps of giants. So, you know, you could look at this in a couple ways, like we used to be giants, but also the giants of these Christed beings that have come to share this message, brandishing a veil of light on the giant footsteps of giants, those who have walked this path. We won't forget your call. Visions of a membrane vast, concepts relate and contrast. If only there was a way that I could bring you there today. And then it repeats. The signs look different on Wisteria Lane. And yeah, it repeats there. So this is talking about that path, that internal journey on Wisteria Lane, where we rise up out of the we turn around and rise up off the valley floor, reaching up to heaven, the purple. So yeah, that's that song, Wisteria Lane. And then the next one, this one's real funky. I hope you enjoyed it. I really do. So this song is called So Ready. So it says, baby, on the way, I was melting like ice. So I was melting like ice. So ice is, I see it as a reference to magnetic energy. It's cooling. So I was melting like ice on the back of my spine. So alluding to this internal process, the chrism oil, the magnetic lift, seemingly magical. It is magical that this substance lifts up, defying quote unquote gravity or the downward causation and lifting up. So that's the magnetic energy. But baby, on the way. So on this way. So, and baby's often a code word for God the Father or God the Mother. Either can fit. So baby, on the way, I was melting like ice. So on this way, I was melting like ice. Where are we going tonight? I saw that you notice they don't say those eyes. I saw that eye in the corner of the light. So that internal, it's a very helpful practice when you are in meditation to draw attention to the internal eye, the third eye. So this is talking about meditation going within. He sees that eye in the corner of the light, playing games with my mind. Well, it's going down tonight. We're getting down, going down to get up. So ready for this. On the floor, that I'm coming back for more. Take it slow. I'm burning, baby, So it's a very challenging process. And of course, we can look at this from a sacred sex perspective as well, especially for that masculine energy to not consume and overtake and turn into that sort of primal animalistic urges. You got to take it slow. So, and it starts on the floor, starts at the bottom and raises up. And I'm burning, baby, because we starting the fire. We have to burn away in order to rise past it. It all came back like the breakdown of a door when I saw you on the floor. What you waiting for? So sort of like a beckoning to anyone else that's still hanging out on the valley floor. It's time to rise. It's time to lift up. Light years on ice. So again, nodding to the magnetic energy of ice. Light years, light, stored in the void of time. Light years on ice, stored in the void of time. So all of consciousness imbued into this now experience. All time that has ever been and ever will be is here now. So light years on ice, stored in the void of time. Turn on your satellites because it's going down tonight. And then it repeats. Yeah, I think it just repeats from there. So yeah, that's the song So Ready by Goose. And yeah, I just discovered them. And I love them. So I hope you guys do as well. I actually had a hard time choosing which songs to do today. These were but just in case you want to see some other ones that I chosen, we'll end with this one, Arcadia. But there were quite a few others that jumped out at me of having some very powerful lyrics talking about this Christic process. So definitely check them out. I'm sure there's a lot more. I only just started to dive into them. So that's Goose. And yeah, welcome to the show today. Today is, what are we at? This is Thursday, March 6th, 2025, as some call it. And it's hard to believe we are in March of 25. What a time. What a wild time it is. So thanks for being here today. Thanks for choosing to spend your time here on this Quest-i-on, the quest to illuminate the single eye, the quest I am on. And this is a space where we gather together to share our experiences and to ask questions and to just go over any topic that has come up for us. And I'm not here claiming to have all the answers. I will never claim to have all the answers. That would, what a boring experience this would be if we had all the answers. And if we pretend like we have all the answers, then that is a signal to the divine to stop bringing us more. We're closing off that pathway. So I will always stay in humility and say that I'm just doing my best to figure this whole wacky ride out. And I love that others join this call that have a lot of insight as well. So if you find yourself wanting to jump in on any topic, share on anything that we're discussing, feel free to jump in and share or ask a question or whatever. And if you're new to Telegram, just hit that center button on your screen, and that will signal to me to open your mic, and I'll get you in. And if your mic's already open, just just jump in when there's a silent moment. And if you have a hard time finding that, just toggle your mic, and I'll do my best to see that and call on you. So yeah, I guess just quick announcements today. Just want to thank everyone who contributed to Bali and the orphans in the past week or so. He was so grateful to receive that. And if you're not familiar, I am sort of helping out with an orphanage in Uganda. We've been in close contact with Bali, who helps to run the orphanage there. And yeah, we're helping to just kind of, keep them going. Make sure that they have enough food and supplies for the children. But any help with that is certainly very appreciated. So thank you to all who have contributed just to help cover their basic costs. I have asked them to please reach out, elsewhere, to not that we're gonna cast them aside or anything like that, but just to add to the people that he's reaching out to, so that we can share the load on helping out with that kind of stuff. But yeah, in the meantime, we're just doing the best we can with what we have. So any help is greatly appreciated. So if you want to help out with that, you can send to any of my links, justincarpenter.org/contribute. And you can find all my donation links. I am 100% donation supported as well. So any contributions are greatly appreciated, just to help me do all that I do, and dedicate all this time to you guys and to helping out. And we just had a great show last night on the Gospel of Thomas, which was a really awesome beginning to a series. So Darth and I went through line by line each verse in the Gospel of Thomas, and just went over what we saw within them. And we got through 19 verses. I think there's 140. I don't remember exactly how many. 114, I think. I think there's 114 verses in that book. So it'll take us a few episodes to get through that, but it's well worth it, because talk about a book that is just jam-packed with gnosis and very concise and simple language too. So it was very obvious just reading the first few verses exactly why the Catholic Church and the Jesuits and all those who sought to bring the teachings of Yeshua, who they call Jesus Christ, bring these teachings down to their knees, essentially neuter them, essentially castrate them. So because Yeshua was a very powerful figure, in that the ideas he brought forward were all about liberation and sovereignty, and he didn't mince words. He was very explicit in that regard, and very explicit in talking about that we're not here to just give our power to the establishment. So of course the establishment does not appreciate that message and wants to do their best to destroy that message and remove any books that say this message too explicitly. They couldn't go at it 100%. They tried to at first. They tried to go at it from a direct combative way of, murdering Christians and anyone following the teachings of Christ. They destroyed and killed, or as best they could. And they did a pretty good job at that way, but that ended up not working for them as well. And so we had the quote unquote fall of the Roman Empire. But it didn't fall. It just transformed into the Holy Roman Catholic Church, which instead of combating it directly, they subverted and distorted the teachings of Yeshua. And they did so by removing many books from the biblical compilation including the Gospel of Thomas, because it is extremely explicit. And so if you didn't get a chance to see that, I highly recommend checking out that episode. We will be continuing with that one. Yeah, it's a great place to review and discuss. And we'll go over other books that have been removed as well. So yeah, what else? I think that's about it as far as what I need to talk about today. So we'll just jump into the show and the topics. I do love to give priority to those who are here on the call live. It's just more fun to have a dynamic discussion and to talk about anything. But if you are unable to attend the lives or just would prefer submitting a question in writing, you're always welcome to do that as well. So I can receive questions any which way that you can find me, any which way that you can contact me, whether it's through a comment on a post or sending a message to me directly, whether it's on Facebook or Telegram or wherever you can find me. You're always welcome to reach out to me in that way. And yeah, and I'll save the questions to go over at some point, whenever we get to them. So yeah, I'll just pass it over and see if anybody wants to jump in to share a topic. No topics are off limits. Everything is on the table. It's all connected. So if you have a question, and it's a gift to offer a question. So please don't hesitate if you do have one, because if you have a question, then it's in the realm of consciousness, and somebody else is going to have that same question. So it is a gift and a service to offer a question up so that we can have some topics to go over. So I'll just pause for a second and see if anybody wants to jump in. All right. I guess we'll just go through some of these offline submitted questions. So yes, this one is a good question. And it's from Philip Pirovano. And he said, how was the earth and all life on it started and formed? When were humans put here? How about elephants, bacteria, plants? Did all come at the same time, or was there some kind of spiritual evolution? And follow up, why are there no tigers in Australia and no kangaroo in the USA? Yeah, and then he goes on, he's reading the Silmarillions book from Tolkien, and it talks about the intro to that realm. Yeah, so just how did this all begin? And it's a great question, and I can't with absolute certainty describe what happened, but my understanding and what makes the most sense to me is that it in the beginning there was void, there was no experience, and we were simply there, consciousness prior to seeing itself, prior to the beginning of creation, in creation from the standpoint of God creating a reality to view oneself. So this is all a giant mirror for God to see him, herself. And you are that, you are not separate from that being that is attempting to see oneself by playing this game of pretending to separate and hiding oneself from oneself so that we could pretend to be separate, all to go through the experience of discovery and learning, expansion. So I don't really see a slow, we're taught this whole scientific evolution idea that we evolved from nothing. Well, not nothing, but like fragments of rock and excuse me. We evolved from pond scum, bacteria, and that turned into monkeys somehow, and then we turned from the monkeys and all of that, and it was just a slow evolutionary process, a random happenstance, real yeah. So that's a big lie that we're taught. I ascribe more to the fact that, or more to the idea that it's like, which came first, the chicken or the egg? Well, what if both existed? What if both simply were or are, like nothing existed before that, and then there just was, and it was the totality of creation. Now, I'm not saying that there isn't room for physical evolution within the created experience. We can see animals and things do change over time. There is a seemingly evolutionary process, but as far as the impetus or the beginning, I see it as simply as soon as the thought for creation began, then all of it was, and it was sort of set in motion to continually evolve and expand. So as far as why different things exist in different regions, I see that as just like, ultimately we're here to have fun and enjoy this experience. People are like, well, if we're not supposed to eat the animals, what's the purpose of them? That carnivores and people still eating flesh, we're like, well, what's the point? Why are they here if we're not supposed to eat them? What about just enjoying them? What about most people love animals, like just to see them, to be around them, to either enjoy them from afar or up close. Either way, they are such an interesting layer of creation. And so what a magnificent experience to have, to see divinity through these little creatures or big creatures, and then the sense of wonder and magic and mystery to have various animals in various regions, and how that changes. And so then it just adds vibrancy to the exploration and the discovery. And then on top of that, how there are mechanisms within creation to allow for evolution, for change. Not that we evolved from nothing in a careless, universe, but what if the pieces in play got to change and shift based on the influence or what was happening around them? So then it just creates an endless supply of entertainment and study and fascination and enjoyment. And, like, often when we're embarking on this seeking journey, we get to the point of like wanting to find purpose or meaning in everything. And I've shared this video before, but I love it. It's one of my favorite videos I've ever discovered. And it's a video of Alan Watts speaking, and the compilation they did with it is phenomenal. And it's essentially describing like life is inherently meaningless, and it's okay. It's okay. It's like, we're not trying to, he describes in that video how I think it would be best if we just played it. I think it would be ideal if we just played that video, because it really is a good one, and it helps to describe this so beautifully. So let me see if I can pull it up quickly. While I'm looking for that, Darth, I know you mentioned this, you enjoyed this question. Do you want to jump in and give your take on the beginnings of reality and how we got here?
Sure. So the cabal, or whatever you want to call them, they've done some things to our perception of reality and time in order to make us more easy to control. And one of them two of them. The first is that they have convinced many people that there is a linear, singular timeline, and for the reason that if everyone believes in a single timeline, then they believe in a single system, and that single system can control more people. Okay, so it's if you have a bunch of people believing in multiple histories, then you need a separate system for each history to control them. So what does it have to do with the origins of life? Is that there's not a singular timeline that you can say that, you know, life originated in this specific order, at this specific location, at this specific time, because that wouldn't apply to the entire construct of reality, because reality is it's a harmonic with multiple harmonies. The other thing that they've done is that they've convinced people that time has a beginning. And once again, that just makes people more easier to manage, so that you can tell a simpler story of how we got here and where we're going. Because if you change the past, then you change the future, at least the direction of it. So how is it really? Well, the way that it is really is that there is no beginning to time. And it has to be that way, because if there is a beginning to time, then there would be an end to time. And if there's an end to time, we're all in some very serious trouble. We need time to continue on indefinitely so that we can move forward indefinitely. And if there's an infinite future moving forward, then there would have to be an infinite future moving backward. So time has a source, but it doesn't have a beginning. And that might be hard for some people to comprehend, but that's just the way that it is. What this means is that no matter how far back you go in time, you'll never find a beginning to life. Life has always originated or always existed because time itself is alive. Everything in existence is alive. Even death is alive, right? So it's just a different perspective of life. So what would happen? So a good way to learn or to look at this is, what would happen if somehow we could completely, totally eradicate all life? How would it come back? Because it would. So I'm hearing an echo.
So echoing?
Yeah, it's really. I'm hearing delayed, and it's really confusing. I find
Is that better?
Yes, that's better. Thank you. Okay. Because then if there's an echo, then I have to process 2 lines of dialogue, and I can't do it. Anyway, so like, let's say theoretically all life on Earth was eradicated. What would that mean, and how would life return? And this has to have happened, because if time is infinite and life has always existed, then at some point in the past, we successfully eradicated ourselves in some timeline. And yet life is here. It's here now. We look around. We're alive. You're alive. Everything's alive. So how did it start up again? So there are 2 primary forces that run our reality. You have the downward material force. It's the masculine force, and it creates matter. And then you have an upward spiritual force, a feminine force, and it animates the matter that was previously created. So the 2 forces are inverse. They're opposite at right angles and inverse of each other, and they work together harmoniously and perfectly to run this entire construct that we live in. But they're different. So the downward force is entropic in nature. That means it causes, it breaks things down, it separates things, it dissolves things. And it has to be that way because the downward force is what creates the separation of reality. So originally there's just spirit, and then the downward force passes through spirit and separates spirit from mind. And then the downward force passes through the mind and it separates emotions from the mind, or the energy from the mind. And then it passes through the energy and it separates matter from the energy, or it makes matter from the energy. So it's constantly separating perspective, driving things apart, saying this is not that. However, the rising force is opposite. And so the downward force disorganizes, but the upward force organizes. It brings things together. It's intelligent. The downward force is not very intelligent. It won't ever make anything that says anything. However, the rising force, well, that's what programs our genetic code. And our genetic code is highly intelligent. It's saying something specific. If you were to compare our genetic code to like a book, okay, so the downward force, if it could, write anything in our genetic code, it would just be gibberish. It would be 100 billion monkeys banging away at a typewriter, and they would never say anything intelligent. But the rising feminine organizing force, well, she's very intelligent, and she will write symphonies and books and poems and melodies and everything. In fact, everything that has ever been said intelligently has come from that rising spiritual force. And so both energies can be measured, and both energies can be observed and manipulated and seen, even with the naked eye. And the effects of them can be seen with the naked eye. It helps if you have high magnification with the rising spiritual force. And Wilhelm Reich discovered this force, certain aspects of it. So what would happen? So let's say mankind eradicated all life on this planet. So there would be a very negative rising spiritual force. It would the construct, the plane of existence would be highly traumatized. And so that rising spiritual force would create a lot of parasitic life. Even if all life is eradicated, the first life that would be made would be parasitic life because of the negative energies involved. And then eventually those parasitic life would consume themselves, but they would still produce life force, even if it was inverted. And eventually life force would build up and build up and build up. And then eventually there'd be enough life force present that you could start to make simple cell organisms. And the simple celled organisms would multiply, and they would divert background energy into positive life force energy. And the positive life force energy would build up until the point where more complex organisms can spontaneously manifest. And that's what it is. It's a spontaneous manifestation of the invisible principles. That's how she works. And so what happens is that reality exists as a possibility. And then when you look at it, then you collapse a possibility into an actuality. So as life builds up, life would just spontaneously just manifest, and all of a sudden, over the horizon would come more complex organisms, until eventually the background life force, the rising spiritual force, would build up to such a point that a man would spontaneously just manifest. And he might not know his origins, he might not understand where he came from, but nevertheless he would be there. And then from there, he would look for a mate, and in looking for a mate, the mate would manifest, because that's just how it is. You look, and whatever you're looking for, you find. And then man, the human family would rise up again. And if we're in harmony with the rising spiritual force, then more and more complex and wonderful and amazing and magnificent life forms are discovered, and there's no end to it. But if we act against that rising life force and we pervert it, then parasites start to rise up. So you can't stop the rising life force. She's always going to be there. She's hardwired into the construct. And if she's happy, she makes symbiotic life. But if she's not happy, then she makes parasitic life. And there's no end to this process. There's nothing anyone can do to eradicate the concept of life from reality, because we're hardwired into the construct. We will always, always, always come back. No matter how many times we destroy ourselves or how many times we get it wrong, we're coming back, because we're a manifestation of higher principles. So even if there's no man that exists, love still exists, loyalty still exists, kindness still exists, compassion still exists, mental fortitude still exists, self-control. Every positive and negative attribute you can think of exists, even if no one's doing it, even if no one knows. And those attributes make us. And so every time we come back, we'll always look approximately something like we look now. There might be small variations of the infinite possibilities of absolute divine love, but we're always going to be this same general shape because we're a manifestation of the invisible principles. So that's how and why we got here. So it's not so much evolution, because adaptation is not evolution. It's maturation and manifestation. So life appears and then it matures, and more complex and more mature organisms manifest, but they're not directly linearly linked to what came before. So you don't need an infinite line of eggs and chickens in order for chickens to appear. They can just appear spontaneously, provided that the background life force is dense enough. And there's no way to stop that process. Even if you could completely pervert 100% of the life force so that 100% of the life force is parasitic, it'll eventually correct itself. Because the amount of positive energy coming from the absolute divine source is, well, it's infinite and unstoppable. So there's no way to screw this up, which is really good news, actually. So we don't have to worry. Even if we get it all wrong, we're coming back anyway. And as far as why certain life forms exist in certain places, well, that's adaptation and it's harmonics, because the animals see each other the same way we see each other. The animals see each other and they're connected to each other. And so they're going to form symbiotic relationships with each other to optimize for adaptation to the environment. And the earth itself has a harmonic, which affects how the animals manifest into various regions. And that's what I know about that.
I could not have said it better. I agree completely. And that was very, very wonderfully described. So thank you for that. Yeah, it's, and I like using adaptation versus evolution and just getting away from that lie pushed anyway, using a different word. So yes, life adapts, it will shift. It does react or respond to stimuli. So yeah, great description there. And I still want to play this video by this compilation of Alan Watts sayings, just because I think I've played it before, but it's so good. It has helped me in so many ways. So I hope it helps you as well.
When you fully realize that to be surprised at everything is high wisdom, you get a new point of view towards the world, which gives you almost what could be called a child's vision of life. When Jesus said, unless you be converted and become as a child, you cannot enter into the kingdom of heaven. To a child, the world is entirely new, and therefore all of it is extraordinary. And I hope most of you can remember how you saw things when you were about 2 years old, as the whole world being quite weird. When you get used to things, you see a tree, and you say, oh, well, that's a tree. We're used to trees. We know what trees are. But if you can go back to your childhood and remember how it was when you first looked at a tree, and you saw the earth itself reaching up into the sky, extending itself in many branches and waving all these little flags of heaven. Or when you looked at the sun as a child, you stared at the sun, it was marvelous, and the sun turned blue. And there was a feeling about everything of being essentially magical. So there is a most extraordinary passage which occurs in one of the rarer books of Chesterton, called The Coloured Lands, where he makes this extraordinary remark. It is one thing to describe an interview with a gorgon or a griffin, a creature who does not exist. It is another thing to discover that the rhinoceros does exist, and then take pleasure in the fact that he looks as if he doesn't. And this is the key to this man's wisdom, that he could see all kinds of everyday things and events as if they were completely improbable and magical. And that he could describe the world as an extremely improbable object. This great globe of rock floating in space around a vast fire, covered with green hair, that ordinary people called grass, and containing all the extraordinarily odd objects on it. And when he thought about this, he realized two things that are not ordinarily realized by religious people. He realized that the world created by God is a form of nonsense. And that one of the most important features of the divine mind is humor. In one of his essays, he says, so often, when I've written the word cosmic, the printer makes a misprint and prints it comic. But he said there's a certain unconscious wisdom in that. The cosmic is the comic. Dante wrote the Divine Comedy, an account of earth, heaven, purgatory, and hell. The Divine Comedy. One finds, you see, that in ordinary people's religious attitudes, there is a lack of both these things, of nonsense and of humor. We celebrate. One of the great things, one of the fundamental insights that is underlying all Chesterton's work is that the attitude of heaven is not serious. There's a famous passage in his book, Orphan. Things And if that must be true of the angels, how much more true of the Lord of the angels? See, our trouble is, where we really get into difficulty in life, is that we expect everything to make sense. And then we get disappointed. We expect, for example, that time is going to solve our problems. That there's going to come a day in the future when we will be finally satisfied. It's going to... When you're, you see, and the universe doesn't work that way at all. Well, the goal of music is certainly not in the future. You don't play a symphony in order to reach the end of the symphony. Because dancing view of the world. Of it, the very nonsense of it, as it unfolds. Now, in ordinary way of talking in the West, we would say that's terrible. Something that has no meaning is awful. A meaningless life, you see, that we say about the most dreadful kind of life. But Chesterton is trying to say that the meaningless universe, the nonsense universe, is just great. Just because it doesn't mean anything. It is because God himself is dancing, is playing. He has a poem of God as a child, and he's playing with a windmill. And the fans of the windmill are the four great winds of heaven, and the balls with which he's playing are the sun and moon. And the whole idea, therefore, then, is that existence itself is a magical play, and is therefore nonsense. In the sense, the special sense of nonsense, that it is something going on which does not refer to anything except itself. When we say nonsense, we are saying it for the delight of the words, and not for anything that they mean. 'Twas brillig, and the slithy toves did gyre and gimble in the wave. All mimsy were the borogoves, and the mumraths outgrave. In this kind of marvelous playing with the voice and with words, you have something nearer to the nature of reality than you do with statements that make formal sense. Because that's the sense of the thing, fundamentally. That is everything in the world, the flowers, the trees, the mountains, all you. Make sense of it all.
Yeah. And then you'll find yourself singing with the angels when you stop trying to make sense of everything. And it doesn't mean that we can't have it doesn't mean that we can't focus and discover and research and explore, but it just takes away that finality of like, I've got to figure everything out. When we start to see the big picture of this big play that we're in, it just takes the edge off. So great video. That's done by they did a great job with that compilation, T&H Inspiration and Motivation, the channel there. So hope you enjoyed that. And yeah, just wanted to add that to the sort of topic of like, yeah. So anyway, I glad to share that. And I just really find that example so helpful. The comparison to a dance or to music, to a jazz, because this is all frequency. So all the animals in various locations are different instruments, different tunes, and the observation of such is listening to that symphony that's playing, of witnessing all the animals in certain areas interact with others, and they're not focused on an endpoint or finality, or it just is this ever unfolding, beautiful, wonderful, amazing thing to witness. So yeah, Yeah, that's that. So I will just, I see Tracy. Go ahead, Tracy.
Wow. Oh my God. That was, I know you've spoken, many people here in this group, these groups have spoken of Alan Watts, and I have not participated in watching it yet. But really, in my mind, always wanting to go, oh yeah, I've got to get back to that. There's the list is so long of stuff to catch up on, there's just so much amazing information out there, but that was brilliant. And the timing for myself, it's 3:03 a.m. Oh, there's that 33. And what you said, because I was trying to quickly encapsulate it. Wow, what did that just do? That just really moved me. That just shifted something. And you said it took the edge off. That's exactly what it did. The whole, what a perfectly simple explanation. It just really clarifies for something for myself. I can't think, at this point in time, and at this point of our journeys and what we've journeyed together here. So we've witnessed people going through extreme highs and lulls. We've gone through a lot of different processes together. But there's things have gotten, we've seen absolute catastrophes happen, regrouping and rebuilding happening, coming out of the devastation that we've witnessed over the past couple of years. It's just crazy. So, I think it's the pressure point that we're all at. There's a real pressure point going on, and for a lot of people in many ways within family dynamics, relationships, finances, whatnot. And personally myself, I've spoken of my situation as well. And so currently, I haven't really shared this yet. I have felt a little bit too, a little bit. I don't want to use the word vulnerable, but more fragile, I think. But not in a way like, oh, if I speak, I'm going to hurt myself, or if I'm not fragile in the sense to fear something, but just wanting to. I'm just allowing myself to go through a process, as I've spoken of, going through a divorce and whatnot. But recently, have had a complete disengagement with my ex, and I've had to really, really make the decisions without. It's hard to explain, but anyway, making some decisions recently to stay put where I'm at, where I was planning to move and trying to shift my physical circumstances here. But I was, the way that this video is explaining, constantly trying to search for the answers and trying to be in control of the whole situation, because obviously I'm the only one that can be. So, but still allowing it to be just to be, because I'm not in a position where I could command the next step or a command part to be part of the process. Really, I was kind of dependent on outside sources. So I had to step up in a way for myself, which you only do when you're pushed to the precipice. So anyway, I was able to sort out myself in a way, and my current status is that I'm squatting. So which I never really planned to do in any way whatsoever. Like, I'm not trying to take advantage of anybody, but I have just the way that it's turned out. Like I said, I had to cut off my contact with my ex, which also meant I was still being financially supported by him, at least for keeping a roof over my head. But for myself, I've been maintaining myself for over a year, basically feeding myself and any other costs. So, but just trying to navigate the tricky, not necessarily messy, but uncharted waters of decoupling, splitting assets, and also the really, what was more tricky was the the splitting of the energy that was once held by the two of us, something that you created. That was an energy we created. So removing myself and removing that energy from me, that's been a process as well. So I've been trying to navigate all of this while I'm with all of you all the time, and trying to navigate relationships, online only. I still have yet to physically meet anybody or be in any close proximity to even attempt it. But anyways, so putting all my trust into this whole group and putting the trust into myself has been like all of us. It's all been a learning process, right? We're all walking this path together, it is just so beautiful, because without it, I really wouldn't want to imagine not having this. So anyway, so being in a position where I'm feeling more vulnerable, like I said, because I'm sort of now I'm squatting. I haven't been able to pay rent. We're anticipating something, playing out very imminently. So there's a lot of there's a lot of factors that I have no control over, no idea when they're coming, how they're coming, but I've been able to sit within it and overcome things within myself. A lot of fears that I've had, anticipating, being homeless and having sort of gone through all the options, trying to reach out for certain governmental assistance, in welfare assistance, what's available here to expats and stuff like that. So I've gone through that process and kind of came to a dead end there. But, excuse me. So I've just been able to sit within my means, whatever that is. And it's been a, excuse me, a constant narrowing down of resources. So it's not been comfortable for the most part, but yet there's a peace within it that I have found, and been able to, thankfully still have this roof over my head. So I've just been taking advantage of whatever I could while I'm here, however long it's going to last, and be okay with whenever that time comes. If the time comes, I am, physically removed from here for some reason. Let's see, before EBS happens, before I'm able to sort of regroup myself in some way, um, having to know that could be a very sudden reality has definitely brought some fear. Excuse me, has brought some fear. It's sort of getting me a bit emotional. But yet I'm completely okay with it. So I know that everything will be working out for me. So it's hard. It's been a whole process of all of us learning that too. It's not happening to me, it's happening for me. So, but hearing this video and listening to what he was saying, it really took the edge off. But for the most part, I am doing really, really well. And I just wanted to share that. So it does feel a bit, I don't know. I don't want to go on and on about things. I know I've repeated myself about this kind of. I feel like I'm in a about to be evicted Groundhog Day kind of loop for a long time. So I apologize to anybody listening that it's sort of this same repeated story about this same thing, but because it has gone on for a long time. But it's crazy how I think, oh God, it's coming so close, and this is going to happen. Oh no, it's like I've got like another week left, and I should be out by next week. And then something happens, another door opens, another opportunity. I'm like, oh no, okay, I get I'll buy myself another couple months reprieve. So that's gone on for like a few years, and it's crazy that I thought, I can't even believe that I actually am still here. So it's really beautiful, and it's wonderful. And when he was explaining that life is the comic element to it, and it's just a cacophony of sounds, movements, actions. It is, when you look at it in that perspective, it's it makes me feel like I resonate with that very deeply. So thank you for that, Justin. That was beautiful. Love you all very much. Thank you for listening to my share.
Yeah, you're welcome, Tracy, and thanks for sharing that. And I'm glad that helped. It certainly helped me just in those moments where, because it's like if we zoom out, yeah, it does. It takes the edge off of whatever we might be focusing on, and you know, I know that's challenging. So really, thank you for sharing that. Yeah, God's got some big things planned for you because you have been going through that refining process. So he knows how strong you are, and we're not out of it yet. But as you mentioned, it's these kind of precipices that where we make those really powerful changes and step further into our own power. And I know you have been and are continuing to do so. So yeah, we're definitely with you there. And I know it's challenging for so many right now. It's yeah, only at the precipice will people find the will to change. So in this grand play in the song right now, the point in the song and the music is, it's like it's the darkness, you know, like this is the darker elements. And of course we've kind of skipped ahead a bit and seen the light coming, so we know that, but we can't skip this part, which is like the full facing of the darkness, both in our personal lives and collectively. So it's yeah, that's manifesting and showing up in various forms, various ways. But again, thank you for sharing, and I'm glad the video helped. Yeah, it's definitely one I keep close. So thanks for that. And I see we've got a couple of, oh yeah, go ahead.
One more thing. I just wanted to add, like I had I lost my wallet a couple days ago, which I think I've said that to you, Justin, a few times, or maybe some others on here. I do it frequently. I've done it my whole life. I lose it all the time, but I get it back. I've had my wallet returned so many times with all the money in it, like a Louis Vuitton wallet in Japan, lose it out of my bike basket on the street, but get it returned. I've been so blessed that way. But yes, I have lost it sometimes completely. I've had it stolen. So it all balances out. But anyway, I lost it the other day. I kind of broke my rule of carrying all of my specifics in one place. So I had my Hong Kong ID, special ID card, governmental issued thing, my apartment pass card. Both of those obviously have my photo on them, so that's a good thing. And then my bus pass card, tap and go card, and what else? My bank card. Yeah, so no cash or anything, but I lost it on the little minibus because I've not had a car for almost coming up to a year, maybe close to anyway. Which that's another thing that's been very freeing, but there's a lot of pros and cons with that, but that's been an incredible process as well. So getting on these little minibuses around here, it's a very small area, so it's not like it's deep in the city with tons of people, very transactional, tons of people getting on and off. So it's just a very small localized little minibus thing. And I was really bummed at myself, like, oh God, I broke my rule. I know better. It's, kind of almost had to catch myself going, well, you're really stressed out, Trace. You're a lot in your mind, and it's okay. And so, but then I, sort of had a little cry. I was like, oh, damn it, though. I kind of know better. That's a real simple one that I sort of get in these sort of, if I don't stay on top of certain things, and then things start getting messy like this, like I'll lose it. So if I just lost certain things that are easy to replace, but certain IDs that are hard to replace, right? But ultimately, it isn't a big deal. There was no money, could get all those things back. I was like, yeah, it's okay. It's fine. No problem. So then okay, what should I do? Tried to call around, tried to find a lost and found. And it's like, no, I'll just go to the bus loop. There's a bus loop that ends and that everybody gets off there. And there's a little booth, a little guy that sits in the booth that I walk by all the time when I come back to get the bus. And I get the subway from that station. So there's no subways in my area here. So I'll take a little bus to it. And then, so I thought, okay, well, I'll go later on. Yeah, I'll go check that out, and I'll give him my number, and tell them what happened and see what happens. And they can, maybe somebody will find it. So I was pretty confident that it would probably be turned in at somewhere, just didn't know where. So I had to go through the process of a few different places and eliminate each one. But I showed up there, and there it was. The guy's like, "Oh yeah, here you go." I didn't even. I just kind of, as I was walking up, he was already ready to turn around and grab it. So, because like I said, my photo's in there, so that was really cool. So I got that back. There was a whole bunch of things that happened right after. I got changed, went to buy something, and my change was 333 Hong Kong dollars was my change, which is like about $30 US. But and then I walked to go and do something again. It was exactly like a few moments later, it was like 3:33 in the afternoon. So, and then I just started to tell my story here, and it was 3:03. So anyway, just those little things that are kind of, silly that I like to mention, and either completely irrelevant to sort of understanding the story, but those little timestamps for me are always part of my little the little journey that actually makes me sort of laugh and makes it lighthearted in that way. I mean, I think we all hear people, "Oh yeah, I keep seeing this number, I keep seeing that number," and there's a lot of people that mock that, make fun of that, think, "Oh, it's just silly, it's meaningless." Oh, listen to that person. They go on and on about these little signs they see and stuff like that. But for myself, it has been so real. But when you recant it to someone else and you're telling it to someone else, it doesn't really make much sense. They can't really follow along, but it's very meaningful to me. So anyway, so I just wanted to share that part as well. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks, Tracy. Yeah, the little signs and nods that the divine gives us when we're paying attention, and when you really are paying attention, you see the comedic timing of these little bits of influence. So just more pointing to, this is all here for us to have fun with, to enjoy. So thanks for that. And yeah, I see we'll start with Jill, and then we'll go to Beth after that. So go ahead, Jill.
Hi, everybody. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Oh, great. Awesome. Hello, everyone. A couple things. I actually have something to say after following up Tracy's first comment, not about the wallet, but I do misplace my wallet a lot. I think that we're just like not concerned with it, perhaps. But and I have a question for Darth and Justin. So I'm kind of going through the same things, Tracy. I've been married and with my husband 37 years, and we have 4 children, and 3 were still in our home. And our 25th wedding anniversary was February 12th, Lincoln's born day. And 2/5 has always been really special because it's my born day, 2/5, and obviously with the chosen coming in. And so on my 25th wedding anniversary, so my husband's dresser has been empty, but in my room, my space, and my space is very cluttered right now because I work quite often, and so there'll be books that I intend on reading or whatever. Oh, but getting back to actually the energy that Tracy was talking about. So on that day, on the 12th, I happened to be here, and it was a full moon, and I had received for my born day a beautiful full moon, a sage and a special candle and mantras to say, and it just so happened it was a full moon on the 12th. So it was really heavy energetically for me. And so I decided to put my things in his dresser, which has been empty because Lord knows I needed the space. And I proceeded to put all of my t-shirts from the Great Awakening in there. Like, that's how I was taking back my energy in this room, because that's, where he would say it all fell apart when I, fell off the deep end, like all of you beautiful souls listening. So I'm doing this right now. I'm going through my books and things taking the day. So what Tracy said that, so it really, I really love that, because that's exactly what I'm doing right now. But in saying that, I had come across a few books that, you know, I had gathered a long time, whether I saw them at a garage sale or if I just ordered it because of maybe a podcast or something that I resonated with me and I wanted to get to it. And the first few that I had read were the Gospel of the Holy 12, and I think it was because of Bryce, actually. It was the Gospel of the Holy 12 and Jesus and the Essenes, like end times, Gospel according to Q, obviously. So it's neat that I'm coming across all these, but I also, and obviously the Key of Enoch, the Book of Enoch, that was one of the first ones. So I have this, and I feel like, well, it says the Book of Esther on it, but the family Megillah, Megillah. So I was just wondering what either you or Darth know about this. I mean, I'm not really sure. I didn't read it, but the book of, I think it's Megillah, or I think it is. I don't know. So in any case, I'm just wondering if this is something I should, you know about, or you want to or suggest, yeah, absolutely get to that. So that's my question. Thanks.
Yeah, that's not something I'm familiar with. Can you spell Megillah?
Megillah. The family Megillah, it's called. And the Book of Esther is somehow, it says that on the front as well.
Yeah, that's not something I'm familiar with. Lila, did you have something on that?
Yeah, I just wanted to jump in before we, or as that's unfurling. Hi, everyone. I just wanted to say hi, Jill. Hi, Tracy. Just to the more personal aspect of the relationship reality, you know, Venus is in retrograde right now. Obviously, there's all that alignment recently, and constellation alignment. And I just wanted to say that it's perfectly in alignment that all of these things are playing out in this way, especially within the partnership realm. And for anybody going through this, whether you're starting to get to the other side of, you know, separating, putting your t-shirts in the drawer, or, you know, if it's just kind of stepping into realizing that space needs to be taken, it really is the time for that. So just a big hug and kind of shout out to everybody that's dealing with that in whatever shape or form, especially within the romantic love relationship realm. And know that, as I know, you know, deep in your souls, it's in divine timing, and this is the time, you know, of the revelations, but especially for those relationships that many of us entered into, whatever, 25 years ago to 5 years ago. We were different people. It was different circumstances. Almost all of us are coming from a place of survival and fight or flight and deep unaddressed trauma. It just makes sense that all of us would need to be stepping into a space of sovereignty, and anything that's not in alignment is just, it just can't stay in your physical realm. So sending big hugs. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks for that, Lila. That's a great reminder. And this is the time for that. I mean, we're still in winter. We're moving out of it, but this is the sort of last gasp of winter as we're approaching spring. So it's yeah, thank you for that, Lila. So just doing a quick search on Megillah, it looks like, so the Book of Esther is in the traditional Bible, and it looks like that's, Megillah is a Jewish term to describe that book, and then I believe other I think there are some other books that are not included in the traditional Bible. So it might include other stories or things. So yeah, I mean, might be worth checking out. I don't know. But that's just from doing a very, very quick search. Darth, do you have anything more on Megillah? It looks like that term means scroll in Hebrew. So that's what Megillah means. But that's all I've got.
I am not especially familiar with that document.
Yeah, so that's all we got there, Jill.
Well, thank you. I was just coming across things and I'm like, why did I have this? At the time, obviously, and so thank you for your input on that, and thanks, Lila. The stars are my weaknesses in knowing what's going on exactly. We feel it. We don't. So it's always nice to have that confirmation. So thank you, and thank you, Tracy.
Yeah, thanks, Jill. Beth, thank you for your patience. Go ahead.
Hello.
Hey.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to turn my speaker off.
Thank you. That worked out perfect because I was making some go-go juice and I didn't want to get left out of the conversation. Sorry to share too much. I'm going to keep it brief, but I got to hop on here and say hello. And thank you, everybody, for showing up. Thank you for sharing so far, Justin and Jill and Lila and Tracy. Tracy, you're the one that got my attention because as you were sharing and I heard you get emotional, it brought so much up in me, not just about the divorce part of what you needed to share, but it made me think about how I had gone through something similar over the past few years. And it wasn't just divorcing a marriage or a mate, it was divorcing a not just a job, but a career and a whole, living environment. And, it just really touched me. And it was so nice to hear your voice sharing again. I haven't had much contact with you lately. So I just want you to know that you're in my prayers and you're not alone. And I kind of am resisting the urge to give a lot of update about my personal stuff today, which I'd rather hold off on that. I want to allow you guys to stay on topic. But I will say that I'm welcoming anyone who wants to send some fairy dust or some prayers or whatever you do with your practice, because yeah, I'm navigating a lot of very exciting changes, and it's causing the same thing in my body with my nervous system where I have to just keep breathing it through and calming myself and getting discernment and getting real clear messages from source on how to proceed with some things that are pretty important. So I'm just welcoming that energy from anybody who's on here who would like to send it my way. I will say that I almost said I accidentally purchased an RV, but that's not exactly true. I feel like Spirit kind of purchased this RV for me because I felt like the amount I was comfortable bidding was a way low offer on the auction. And so after some prayer and meditation, I decided to just put in my high bid and then surrender it, and didn't check the bidding at all for the last few days. It was a week-long online auction. And I just learned last night that I won the bid on the lowball offer. So I'm navigating phone calls and other things. Also, I had a huge revelation in the physical things that are going on in my body, and I got a big clue that makes perfect sense, which also points in the direction of the medical system, where I've been seeking help for the past year and a half for these injuries, has been failing me over and over and over, and I'm done barking up that tree. So I'm taking a lot of pretty sovereign moves with relation to my health, and I'm probably going to be in a space in the next few days where I'm welcoming some input from practitioners in this group that would be willing to help me move through a plan to to get some more healing taking place in my body. So anyway, yeah, I did share a lot of personal stuff, but I just want to stay connected with you guys as everything keeps moving forward at such a rapid pace, it seems at times. So yeah, thank you all for being here. I'm so glad I had a few minutes to stop on, and I may be in and out of listening the rest of the session today. That's all.
Thanks, Beth. Thanks for sharing. And yeah, some very exciting things coming along in your space, and excited to hear more about them as it develops. So yeah, definitely keep us posted. And yeah, just appreciate you. Thanks for hopping on. So yeah, anybody else want to jump in either on anything we've shared or take us in a whole other different direction if you like? Now is a great opportunity to jump in. All right. Well, here is another question from Andrea Hogan. And she asked, have you ever discussed the dark night of the soul? And so what is the dark night of the soul? And it is something I've talked about before, and maybe I haven't done like an explicit show on it. But this is what's often described as a turning point. And well, it can be. It doesn't have to be. It can be. But usually when people recognize something as a dark night of the soul, it's because they've come out the other side. So in order to have that perspective of recognizing a dark night of the soul, it means you have turned around. So Tolkien referred to the U catastrophe as that turning point. And even just taking the letter U as that turn, the shape of it, so you're falling down and you hit the bottom, and that swing helps you to have momentum to shift and go back the other direction. So the dark night of the soul would be that rock bottom moment. It's whatever stimulus inspires us to turn around completely. So it's not something that shows up just one time in our life necessarily, though the first time is usually the hardest. But whatever, say we're going down a path and we're sort of falling off of the way, creation has all of these loving mechanisms in place to help to inspire us to get back onto the path, to follow the way, because the way is the way towards your highest, most expansive, creative being possible. So anything less than that is not as appealing to the divine, which is you. So you at your highest level are always wanting to inspire you to move onto that path of highest expansion. That's the way. That's the Christic way. And when we step onto that, it can't help but to spread and to be shared, even without us saying anything, just through our actions and our way, that how we show up, how we appear. All of it helps to spread that Christic message. And the more we step into that, the more powerful it becomes, and the more expansive it becomes, the more contagious it becomes. And then creation just continues to grow into a more blissful, harmonious, heavenly state. So individually, when we fall off the way, or collectively when we fall off the way, then creation's going to continually give us these little nudges to move back onto that path. Because it's like, hey, we want to play this game in the best way possible, right? You don't play a game just to lose, to try and lose. You know, you play it to try and win, and you play it to try and do better. And even if you quote unquote lose, you didn't lose because you learned how to play the game better. So the next time you do play, it is better. And it's just this continual growing process of refining and playing better. So when we're missing the mark, when we're playing the game in a way that's self-deprecating, destructive, in whatever way, either from subtle all the way to severe, then, as I mentioned, creation will give us these nudges and nods to turn it around. And if we are sensitive and attuned, we can pick up on these little signals quickly, and we can turn the ship around with humility. Humility is key. Humility, when we have humility, we don't really go through what some might call a dark night of the soul. It still is, because it still can be a turning point. But if we're sensitive to the energetic nature of creation and the ways that it's trying to bring us back into balance, bring us back into the way, then it doesn't have to be severe. However, most of us, well, all of us, because collectively we've missed the mark for quite some time, and we've veered off the path, and creation is trying to inspire us to move back onto it, but we've largely ignored it. And of course, there have been intention to steer us away from the message and distract us away from the teachings and anything that would bring us back into that path. But we allowed it, and we encouraged it at times, and we bought into it. And so we don't have anybody else to blame. So we veered off. And because we've ignored all of the gentle ones, every time you ignore, either individually or collectively, then the next time that reminder to get back onto the path comes around is more severe. And you could view that as if God is like punishing us for sinning or whatever. That's the traditional religious perspective, that we have to be punished for sinning. But all sin is just missing the mark. So it's an invitation to empower oneself to refine your aim. If you're shooting an arrow at a target and you're constantly veering off to the left, well, if I'm holding on to pride and saying like, no, if I just keep doing this, eventually it'll go there, because I don't want to change. I don't want to change, I don't want to shift anything. Or you can be humble and say, okay, I see this is continually missing the mark. Let me shift my aim. So that's all the divine is inviting us to do, is to shift our aim, to come back into the straight and narrow way. So when we ignore that, the reminders become more and more intense. And as I mentioned, it's not that God is punishing us for ignoring him or ignoring the divine. It's simply, that's what we want at our highest level. So if we're continuously ignoring ourselves, then that's never going to fight out and beat out our highest self, because it's our lowest self that's trying to ignore that. It's like this demiurge egoic energy that's nothing wrong with it. But if we leave it and we let it run the show, it never wants to change. It never wants to shift anything. It wants to grow more comfortable in the physical reality and consolidate power in that way, because it doesn't exist in the immaterial. So it doesn't even know that, and it's afraid of it. So to embrace that leap of faith and to step off into the unknown, the way that our highest self is continuously beckoning us, that's the path. But through fear or whatever, we ignore that, and so the signs become more severe, and eventually it gives us whatever we need to snap us out of our stubbornness. So whether that's experiencing the death of someone we love, or whether that's losing our home, or whether that's getting in a severe accident, or having our business go bankrupt, or whatever the case may be, that's exactly what I needed in order to snap out of it. And there's so many examples. This is the formula for the story, is to have that great thing, that great adversary, if you will, that comes along. And it's through learning, through contrast of, I don't like this anymore. I don't like the feeling of letting my health decline to the point to where I'm in such pain. You know, I don't like the going through the experience of being so attached to my physical belongings that I had to lose it all in order to find that freedom. Whatever the case may be, we'll go through. The divine has the appropriate antidote to our stubbornness, and it will find us. So to recognize when we are in that dark night of the soul, that's the point where we're starting to turn around. We're seeing it for what it is, and we're saying, I don't want to experience this any longer. So let me reevaluate what I've been doing. Let me shift my aim. And that requires humility. If we want to stay prideful and keep plowing ahead, then we'll just go deeper. And that wasn't our dark night of the soul. That's just another dark night. It's just another darkening experience. But the night is darkest before dawn. So when we really go through a dark night of the soul, then that means we are on the precipice of that light emerging, because we're shifting and we're changing and we're redirecting instead of falling to go back up. And it doesn't mean that we can't get caught in a fall and stumble, and that's going to happen. It's inevitable. There's no way to maintain in perpetuity the perfection of connection with the divine. We've had a great and many great examples show us how to do it. But even they were not seamless. It wasn't 100% of the time. It's a challenge. It's a challenge to maintain that. So we will go through and we'll stumble and we'll fall. But how do we approach that? With humility, it doesn't have to be a quote unquote dark night of the soul. It just gets to be, oh man, I lost my temper in that argument and I said some things that I'm not proud of. Let me take ownership of that. Let me step into humility and move through it. So the invitation that came from these subtle feelings of our conscience, knowing that what we did was wrong, is all that we need as a nod from the divine to say, hey, you're falling. So go through, you could call it a dark night of the soul, but it's simply just turning around to go to that individual and say, you know what, I said some things that I didn't mean, or, you know, I was reacting emotionally. So I apologize for that. And here's how we can shift. And all of a sudden that becomes such a simpler way of shifting and changing, instead of going through this, you know, I'm never going to admit that I was wrong. Fuck that person. And then something happens, you know, or we lose that individual, or we don't get a chance to tell them how we really feel. So there's always room for us to step further into that subtle, sensitive way of receiving these messages from the divine, so that we don't have to go through severe instances, and it can be subtle. It can be simple. And collectively, we're going through that as well, because we decided it wasn't important enough to stand up to the darkness and its continuous attempt to prey on innocence, and going for the most extremes of all the horrible depravity you could imagine. And we just allowed that to run rampant. So we are going through a dark night of the soul, where that entire system built on these lies is coming crumbling down, and people are being exposed to their fears. I mean, you know, I've said it before, but it's good to be mindful of everyone going through this process, going through this. For many, it's incredibly scary, especially for those who are still suffering from Trump derangement syndrome, that are so afraid and so riled up by the things that the left media establishment is saying, and all of that is energy trying to get that individual to go to their own dark night of the soul, to let go of holding on to this lie. But the more attached somebody is, the harder that's going to be. And so further into the night they go, hopefully to get to that point. But it's good for us to be mindful of that process. And we're all going through that to some degree or another, as we're seeing relationships in our old life, surface in ways, and challenges come up within communications and various things, as we've talked about today. And other times, this is revelation. This is the time of prophecy. This is when we are going through that together. So yeah, that's the dark night of the soul, if you want to call it that. Eucatastrophe, turning point. All of it's built into this process, and it doesn't have to be severe and extreme, though it will be inevitably if we ignore it. So best to pick ourselves up when we stumble, and humbly continue walking forward, open to whatever way we need to redirect or shift if we start to veer off the path. So yeah, that's what I'll give on the dark night of the soul, and I will just pass it off and see if anybody wants to jump in either on that topic or take us another direction. All right. Oh, go ahead, Tracy.
Something real quick is the way that you've explained this. You have this topic many times, but you've always it always sounds so fresh, and it always just hits the mark so beautifully and so perfectly. I just wanted to say that. So it just does not get old listening to the way you speak on these things, and this explanation of this process, the catastrophe, the dark night of the soul, all these topics. So it's beautiful that we get to revisit here in this group as these things come up for different people. And even like I said, we have heard this, we've spoken on it. Some people have shared their experience of it, but it just does not get old to hear this beautiful explanation. So thank you.
Oh, you're so welcome, and thank you for the kind words. It's same as it ever was. It's the same story we've always been telling and living out and playing, and the same story will always be, because it's who we are. So when we can pick up on these elements and recognize them, then it doesn't get, again, it that big picture takes the edge off from those moments where it seems extremely challenging or devastating or whatever, and we come back to that. Okay, there's a purpose to this, and I don't need to know all of the reasons why something is happening, but if I'm open to it, then I will. It's like in the reading of the Gospel of Thomas last night, we talked about how if you seek, then you will know. Like once you are open to that, and that's a dark night of the soul right there. Like I'm sure we know many people who are so conditioned by what they think they know in this lying system, this false reality. And as long as they want to stay in that, then that's the direction they will go. But it requires humility to say, oh, wow, I was wrong. I was wrong about this. I was wrong about that. And that's going through whatever dark night to get there, to say, okay, I'm ready for the light to come in again. But I have to surrender. I have to let go. I have to let go of this attachment, this thing that I've always got it figured out. And I've got all these degrees, and I've read all these books, and these people on TV have always told me, so it must be true. It's like, well, so yes, thank you for that. It is the same. So we will be talking about this forever ad infinitum in various forms, in various ways. So it's my pleasure to help share that, because this is not something just to share. I mean, I'm talking to myself. Like when I say these things, I'm very much speaking to myself, and I love to share. I love to share with others, but it's even a part of my human design as well. My inner authority is self-projected. So the way that I best process and work through things is through speaking. So I'm really appreciative of having a space and a community and those who love to listen, because I can just talk to myself, but it's not as fun that way. So thank you guys. And thank you, Tracy. And I saw Mary Louise. Go ahead, sister.
Yeah, I was wondering, is it the same when we're not going after our dreams or the desires we have? Are we getting our ass kicked for that too?
Yeah, well, I mean, if it's aligned with your highest will. So sometimes if we're caught in looping patterns, thinking that our ego is the divine, then it's not always what we think. But energetic. That's why it's best to be in the body and to feel it and be a heart-led reality, because the feeling will guide you. The thoughts don't always. The thoughts can be manipulated based on external stimulus. The feelings are much more internal process and much more aligned with that sort of openness that the right brain is connected. The right brain's connected to the heart, and that's that inner feminine nature, which is by definition a very open, receiving energy. So if we're closed off and stuck in the thoughts, then you might think you have desires and you want to do these things, and then we can like beat ourselves up if we don't do the things that we think we need to be doing. And that's a whole hellish reality that is not really the divine moving us there, but it's our self-created prison. So it can get tricky, and that's why it's all about refining oneself to be open to the subtle vibrations and energetic influences of the divine. But in a simple form, yes, that's what's happening if we're not aligning with self. So whether it's our feelings, our thoughts, our actions, if those are not all aligned together, then we're incongruent. We're out of alignment. So if we take the invitation from spirit and bring everything else in alignment with that, then we've got the entire weight, we've got the entire mechanism of creation, all this energy standing behind us to help us move in the best way possible. And if we don't, then yes, creation is going to continually, as you said, kick our ass in order to get us to listen to that and get back to that space to where the magic can really flow again. It's like this river that through our thoughts and through veering off, we start to dam up and block off, and so it gets bogged down, and all that river wants to do is flow. It wants to flow through you in the best way possible. And so if we are open to that, and if we're sensitive to where are the blockages, and if I'm humble enough to recognize that everything within my reality is my responsibility, to shift. If I'm feeling a blockage somewhere, then I don't spend a lot of time and effort blaming somebody else, and I make the appropriate actions to do what I need to do to release that. And 9 times out of 10, it's going to be internal blockages rather than an external need of shift. But there are times where we externally need to shift things as well. But the majority of the time, it's internal blockages. So yeah, if we're open to that, then the divine will lead us to that space to where that flow can grow in a better way, and we're stepping onto that path of the highest alignment, which is all creation wants to do. Because as that video described, that all of creation is asking us to jump into the song, to dance, to play. And if we're taking ourselves so seriously, and we're attached to our jobs and status and family and whatever sort of ideals that we grow attached to, not that they're wrong inherently, none of them are, but if that's taking precedence over just this subtle invitations the divine is giving us, because it's always playing the song, it's always inviting us to dance with it, then I can get back to the play. I can get back to having fun. And if I don't, then yeah, creation's going to come along and kick my ass until I stop fighting, because that's really what I want to do at the highest level. So yeah, does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
You're so welcome. Good to hear from you, and thanks for the question. Yeah, anybody else want to jump in, share anything, ask anything, take us in a new direction? Now would be a great time. All right. Well, here is another question from Olaf. And he asked about, so last time I spoke about Project Looking Glass, and he was asking if I could give more information about what I know about it. So I will say that I don't have absolute certainty on, I have not seen it. I've not been around it. These are just things that I've been told by people that I trust, and people that I trust know what they're talking about. But as far as I know, Project Looking Glass is a piece of technology that was developed by Nikola Tesla. And the story gets really wacky, so bear with me. But and this is why it's so hard for people to believe any of this, because it's hard to wrap around. But sometime in I want to say it was around 2012 or so, Nikola Tesla actually time traveled into this timeline. So the descriptions of the encounter that I've heard were he popped into a meeting in the Pentagon and was like in a early 1900s accent. He was like, "This isn't my home. This isn't my house. Like, where the fuck am I?" basically. And apparently that was kind of comical, but also very surprising. And so they quickly realized who it was and what had happened. And he had come here because this was a convergence of the timelines. So through his study of timelines and developing time travel, he found that this was the point where all of it converged, and this was the point of greatest, where his efforts could be spent in the greatest way to help move creation along and move through this evolutionary period that we're going through, the transcending of the ages and shifting from winter to spring, from darkness to light, from the dark ages back into heaven on earth. So this is the turning point. This is the dark night of the soul. And so he recognized that this was the time to jump in. So he did, and has been working ever since on this plan, has been working to help develop Q for how Q got to be, and give them a lot of the technology that they've been using to put this plan into motion in the best way possible. At the time, they had a great deal of influence, but it was still uncertain how they were going to go about moving through this and having this plan go as successfully as they wanted to, because the aim of the white hats, of goodly, godly people, is to bring us through this transformation with as little of casualties as possible, knowing that not everyone is going to make it. Not everyone is going to be able to handle this monumental of a change, but the better that they do, and the more of this plan that is put forward in a way, and we're sort of gently warmed up for a time to this big change, then the more of us will make it through to the other side. So that's been the whole agenda of the white hats ever since, forever, but especially in recent decades. So Tesla developed, sometime after he came into the space, he redeveloped technology that he had in previous times. And one of them was Project Looking Glass. And what has been described to me is it's essentially like a big vault that I think you go into, or you look into to some degree, and inside of it, it reveals what you need to see. And I think you can bring like questions or topics to it, but it's a combination of both right and left brain technology. So it's technological, but it's also spiritual. It's been described as like an artificial pineal gland, an artificial third eye. So the third eye, the pineal, is a portal to divine consciousness. So this is a mechanized version of connecting with source consciousness, with the divine, with God. So this is truly God's plan, because what they've been doing, and what I described last week, is that so Ezra Cohen Watnick is actually Ezra Kennedy, John and Carolyn's biological son, and his main job is engaging with Looking Glass, studying what he sees, and then sending out updates to any of the actors out there. So Trump and Zelensky and Biden and all of them, they're all white hat actors, and they're given script updates on what they need to be doing and focusing on and speaking about in order to bring this plan to a higher degree of success. And so what Ezra receives is it's continuously giving updates to this plan as it unfolds. So that's why I said last week that anyone giving an exact timeline they're spreading false information, whether knowingly or unknowingly, I don't know. But there are no dates defined as far as like when this is going to happen. They knew the time period that this was going to take place, but they didn't know exactly how it's going to unfold. And they're just trusting. They know with certainty that this is connected to God consciousness, and it's leading in a way because it's given them so much that has helped already. That's why Q-Post still continue to have deltas to this day. And a delta meaning the same thing happens a year later, or some nod based on reading the Q-Post, it shows up in today's timeline. So how could they do that if these were written 8 years ago? How could they know with certainty what was going to happen? And that's because they've been using this technology, and they've been connecting with God consciousness for this length of time. So I know there are stories out there that Looking Glass used to be like a cabal piece of technology, and the white hats and they like kept seeing that the timelines converge and they couldn't do anything about it, so they tried to destroy the technology and look away from it. I have not heard anything to the validity of that. From what I've understand, it's always been white hat controlled and used, and it makes sense because I can't imagine you could even really use this technology if you were aligned with the sort of darker ways of being. This, because it's not simply just a technological piece; it's also tied to spirit. You would need to be resonating at that goodly, godly frequency in order to even use it. And the same I feel is true for time travel. There has to be some. God goodness is timeless, so in order to step out of the time-bound reality and move about in it, then you would need to be aligning with a higher frequency in order to step into that. So yeah, I think that's about all I have to share on Project Looking Glass and what's been used. And so as I mentioned last week, we don't know exactly how long it's going to take. All we know is that they are aligning with the highest, most goodly, godly energy that is possible. Is the one. They're aligning with the one and receiving basically orders from God on how to have this plan unfold. And as Q says, you'll stay with me, friends. You'll love how this story ends. So we're moving through it, and it's getting more exciting, and we're seeing what's happening. It's also getting more scary and terrifying for some. I mean, and it's good to remember that too, because like as happy as I am to see Donald Trump get up there and speak, and you know, all these other characters really shake things up in the traditional sense. It's also, I'm also reminded that there's a whole large portion of the population that are like absolutely terrified about what's happening right now, and they're going through it. So good to remember that. So yeah, I think that's all I got on Looking Glass. Like I said, that's just for what I've been told, and take that as you will, but I will just share that. So there you go. So yeah, anybody else want to jump in on any topic, take us any direction? Now would be a great time. All right. Well, here's another one. So there was a post shared on JC Family that talked about some technology, like a piece of brain technology that would unlock their telepathic abilities. It said when scientists turned off this filter that blocks psychic, telepathic, and clairvoyant abilities by inducing reversible brain lesions in the frontal lobe of volunteers, it enhanced the patient's PSI abilities, allowing them to influence objects with their minds. And so that was the post that was shared. And then Sarah M. asked, are you in alignment with this technology? Do you feel it is godly? So I thought it'd be a great topic to discuss and to bring up. And it will be something that it's good for us to always have in mind as technology advances, to always be like considering the consequences. It's always good to consider consequences of what we do, especially when we're making big things. And as AI continues to develop, it's good to see that. So I would never sit here and say that technology is bad and we should fear it, and we shouldn't develop things for fear of what might happen with them. I don't think that helps with us to learn through things. And the path is always in the middle. It's always in balance. So it's not for us to be, at least I don't see the divine leading us to an Amish lifestyle where we throw away all technology and go live in the woods, and and that's it. Just completely aligned with nature, and negate all technology. I don't see that as the way, nor do I see the way as to jump into a technologically oriented reality where we're in virtual reality, or we're just constantly surrounded in a concrete jungle, surrounded by technology and EMF and all of that consistently. That's not the way either. So the way is always in the middle. So technology is like a left brain approach, and nature is going to be the right brain approach. So we're here not to negate either part of ourselves, because it's all part of us, but to find the balance within it. So with things like this that are manipulating our physical nature in order to tap into higher powers, basically, these spiritual powers that we can unlock naturally without the use of technology, I feel like we do need to be cautious about what we use. So there's technology that can help us to remember and to sort of step further into our own power. And then there's technology that if used in a certain way can actually dumb us down. So it's like if somebody uses a knee brace constantly, you'll see professional athletes use knee braces, and perhaps to protect against an injury that's happened in that moment, there's times to use those in applications where it's helpful. But if that becomes a long-term thing where that person is always using a knee brace, well, their knee muscles and everything around that becomes weaker because the body's using that and relying on it instead of its own natural abilities. So that's where I feel like we need to exert caution in using things, because it can actually retard our growth. Like, we're here to step in as our as the greatest piece of technology. All pieces of technology are based off of the human form. So if we're just using something, it can deter us from developing our own spiritual powers. So, but I don't think the answer is to go out there and say that nobody's allowed to develop these things or nobody's allowed to use these things. That's just my personal approach to it. Because I think if we try and deter people from it or forbid people from doing that, that doesn't actually help us to learn through this process. So it's best to just continue talking about it and moving forward. If some people want to choose to go through and have a brain implant that helps them to, you know, have night vision or whatever, like, that's their prerogative to do. I won't be participating in permanent implants or things that affect me in that way. But who am I to say what's right or wrong for somebody else to do, you know? And if it does end up sort of inhibiting somebody's growth to where they're just continuously reliant on technology, and then that path is ultimately going to be limited, because technology is always limited, whereas we are unlimited. So to stay in that unlimited nature, instead of taking the fast and easy route of employing technology to use things, sometimes it's better to do the slow and steady and have that evolve into us. But there's a balance with it, right? Like, you could sit there and say, oh, I'm not going to drive a car because I should just be walking. And if I'm always driving a car, then my legs will grow weaker. And it's like, well, yes, in some ways. However, if we're going to just prohibit ourselves from using a technological vehicle to get around, then we're going to be quite limited for at least as long as it takes for us to learn how to fly and teleport again, which may happen in this lifetime, but we got a lot of work to do to get to that space. So I think technology is a great sort of bridge to gap, or a bridge, to cover the gap for us to reach these elevated states and have the convenience of that, but don't let it become a crutch to where we forget what we're here to do, which is to step into ourselves fully. So it's a balance, but it's an interesting topic. And as I said, I think it'll be one that we continuously bring up and go over. And as we evolve technologically, then it will be continuously important to do that. So that's my take there. And thanks, Sarah, for the great question. Appreciate that. And I will just pass it off and see if anybody else wants to jump in or take us in which direction. I don't know if oh, there you go. There's Sarah. Yeah, did you want to talk more on that?
Hi.
Hey.
Did you? Is it okay if I speak now, Justin?
Yeah, I would love that. It looked like, and Telegram seems to be having some issues where people get dropped off and stuff like that. Did that happen to you?
Well, no, that's not Telegram. What I was doing is I was listening to the show through a speaker, and then when I want to speak, I turn that off. So I actually drop out myself and then come back in. So that's what's happening there.
Oh, gotcha. Good to know.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally.
It's not. Yeah. Okay, that's what I'm doing. Anyway, thanks for answering that question. I was directing at the man or woman who actually posted that. And what was really interesting is my intuition led me to pass on that that writing to somebody in this community, and then like it was just like I was told, send this to this woman. Anyways, she her response was like attacking me. It was really weird. I felt it was attacking me, saying, oh, I definitely am not in alignment with you now if like this is kind of the thing you're sending me. And what was really weird is I was not saying one way or another whether I was in alignment with it or not. I just was moved to pass it on to this woman who on social media is posting a lot of stuff around healing and the pineal gland and everything. So it was really weird. Like, so I got attacked, or felt attacked. And, then I was led to look at the part of me that, is maybe seeking for, community and or whatever, just connection with people. And like, to be honest, it was really, I felt it was like an intuitive impulse for me to pass that on. So, and I just want to share what I know about some of us who have a very strong, who came to this life with a lot of our intuition intact and just feeling maybe really not belonging in our families, like, or when things would be said, like all my life, I felt like I've been aware of the lies, but kept very quiet about it, but just knew that when eventually I found out the truth being spoken, I'd go, oh, that resonates. And so that makes sense why way back when I didn't, like these other things just didn't resonate with me. But I basically, my thing that I do is I just keep in silence about it, or just feel like I'm an alien or I'm weird. I don't match what everyone else is thinking. So what I'm hearing from people that I really resonate with and respect is that some of us may have lived on Atlantis before before there was the destruction of that land and that culture, and that many of us were working with very, very high level of technology, and we were working in teams, and we were working in for the betterment of society. And it was a very joyful thing, like waking up in the morning and being part of these teams and being connected to technology that was extremely advanced and a lot based on magnetism. So, and then when the catastrophe happened and the destruction of that society and the destruction of the culture, we blamed ourselves for that. And for that reason, that has caused a lot of this isolation and this fear of getting together, because getting together, those energies come together and the remembering is taking place. So when we come together through shows like this and through actual physically gathering together and just even being in silence and being in the presence of others with this, who have this remembrance that has been oppressed, things are going to magically wake up, and then we start dreaming together and creating together and speaking more freely, and realizing that now it's okay to come together, and we're not going to be punished or killed, or maybe on a certain level we will feel that, just like this example the other day of that, what it felt like an attack from this other woman. And I realized that for me, a big part of my path in this life has been working with sisterhood, like bringing women together to remember and to some of it is ancient stuff, like ancient, I'm talking like witchy kind of things as far as potions and herbal medicines from plants that have always been used for healing. But other of it is some very advanced technology stuff. And that part, I personally do not have a lot of downloads or remembrances of that, but I do believe, I very strongly do believe that I was part of that. And this remembering is coming back. And so I guess there was perfection in me, like reading that. And because I don't think it was you, Justin, that posted it, it was somebody else that posted it. And then it was like immediate passed on to this other woman who I feel strongly, she considers herself a healer. And I know she's doing a lot of work in that field, but the pain for me has been, and the sadness is this women attacking women. Like, in my life, I have to say, energetically, I have experienced and witnessed, like not just me directly experiencing that, but witnessing women attacking women. And I will acknowledge that I've caught myself in it, and not in the, like after the fact, realizing, oh, that was not very sisterly of me. And it's bringing tears to my eyes as I say that. This is a big part of the healing. So that's just what's really alive for me right now, that part of maybe having a more open discussion with the sisters about this. And anyway, thank you everyone for listening, and thank you again, Justin. I'm a projector too, so I'm learning as I speak. I'm learning like things get solved for me in speaking them out too, and I'd rather be heard than just talk to myself. Or I often do actually walk in the woods and I talk out loud in the woods, and I was invited to do that by a healer. She said it's really good for me to talk out loud in nature, and it is very true. Okay, I'll pass it back.
Thanks, Sarah. Yeah, a few things to share on that. So just on human design, that's awesome that you're a projector too. Just want to clarify that I was speaking about the inner authority, which is my inner authority is self-projected. So for projectors, there's other inner authorities that one can have. Maybe yours is the same, but I know that is, I think it's only a small percentage of projectors have the inner projected authority. But the characteristics around speaking are can be quite common in projectors as well. So that's definitely something, but just wanted to clarify on that point. And then on Atlantis. So from what I've been told about Atlantis is that was when the entire earth was unified under one nation, you know, a whole people's united under the Christic cause. So if you can imagine, you know, who knows what percentage of the population, maybe it was 10%. The figures I was told of the population of Atlantis was in the trillions. So lots and lots of people. I think we had more of Earth exposed at that time. And if it's, you know, Darth will talk about the 90-10 or 80-20 ratio. And so if that applies here, which I'm sure it does, then you you could maybe expect like 10% of the population stepping in as fully Christed beings. So with the same powers as Yeshua, and walking on waters, manipulating the elements, and telepathy, and all these different things, levitation. So those were sort of the inner powers that we were unlocking, and it was becoming more and more common to do that. And then aligning with it the technological advances of sort of mimicking the natural powers of the human form, but doing it in technological ways. And so that was, those powers, abilities were given more access to more people. And yeah, I mean, it's hard to say exactly what happened, you know, and we'll be piecing together that story, not from written record, but just from our consciousness, pulling it out from what we've been through. But we were all there. I mean, we've always been here. And so we were there at that point as well. And then somewhere along the way, something happened. I mean, something happened, and it very well might have been technological, allowing technology to overtake the natural. And that's not the right way. You know, technology always needs to be subservient. Always the left brain always subservient to the right. The head always subservient to the heart. But somewhere along the way, we flipped that, and it might have been technologically induced that created the destruction somewhere, somehow. But yeah, it'll be interesting to piece that together and see just what that is. But yeah, on the topic of, I think it's great to continually question things when they come forward, and not out of fear, but just out of, maybe just wisdom to say like, hey, are we ready to open this layer of Pandora's box? Not saying that we shouldn't ever, but maybe before we start playing with the matches, maybe we should learn what fire is, and maybe we should have somebody who's got experience with fire, so that when we start exploring what fire does, we don't burn the house down. And that's kind of the pragmatic approach to this process. Is we've got to know where we are, and we've got to be humble and acknowledge what we have mastered and can handle, and what we are students in, and not try and bite off more than we can chew. And if we do, then we'll learn through that as we have. So yeah, thanks for bringing that up, and just appreciate you sharing that. So thanks, Sarah. Yeah, anybody else want to jump in, share anything? We're coming close to the end of the time here, but just wanted to check in. All right. Well, feel free to interrupt me if you have anything. I'm going to start winding down, though, because I have one more question, but I want to review some things before I do that. So I'll save that one for next week. And yeah, again, feel free to send any questions at any point in time if you have anything, and we'll save them for a future show. But just since we do have time, I'm going to go over the lyrics to the song I'm going to play us out with, and we'll just discuss those quickly. And again, feel free to jump in if you have anything while I'm speaking. But the song is called Arcadia. And what is Arcadia? I looked up Arcadia, and you know, not that we really use Wikipedia, but it's helpful for quick things. So Arcadia refers to a vision of pastoralism and harmony with nature. The term is derived from the Greek province of the same name, which dates to antiquity. So Arcadia is I see it as sort of like a term for heaven on earth, harmony with nature. So that's what they're referring to, likely, when they speak about Arcadia. So as we go through the lyrics to the song Arcadia by the artist Goose, I stumble every time you do it. Ain't never gonna get used to it. So every time you do it, who's you? Is that the divine? Is that Kundalini energy activating us within? We ain't never gonna get used to it, because it's always it's always this exciting, energetic boost of allowing that divine flow to flow through you, and getting to that space and refining that process so that it does better and better ways. Hanging on a garden rose, untamed, the way that my love grows. So hanging on a garden rose, the rose is often a symbol of this process. Untamed, the way that my love grows, because she is untamed. This force within us, this energy, this continually moving motion, she is untamed. She's wild. Oh Lord, I didn't see it coming. Arcadia's got me running. So that heavenly alignment, it's got me running, it's got me moving, inspiring me. Oh Lord, I didn't see it coming. Comes just like the parable that Jesus talks about, how we don't know when the master will return. We don't know when that Christed essence will be. Of course, we can look at calendars and moon cycles, and that can be helpful for when is the chrism oil most likely to rise. But really, this is at any time. So it's not to prepare for specific times of the year or the month or whatever, but just be ready for it, because I didn't see it coming. Just trying not to lose my breath, because hell, I'm going to take that step. So I'm going to take that leap of faith, try not to lose my breath as I step off the ledge, because I'm going to do it, and that's the courage to take that step off into the unknown. And though my pride has gone way down the line, I'm just fine. So fine, like that super fine diamond that we are, way down the line, way down that straight and narrow way. And though my pride has gone, because we let that go to humbly step onto this path. You can't take pride with you. It doesn't fit there. So we have to let that one go and realize we're just fine. If my luck is all that I have today, well, it's no wonder that you found me. So luck could be another, could be referring to the divine here. Well, it's no wonder that you found me. It's the divine influence buried underneath my weight. Well, wood stilts and little red pills may be all that hold me up. So wood stilts, as in like we are Pinocchio, the puppet, trying to become a real boy. Little red pills could be referring to the Matrix, taking the red pill, or is just the sort of false reality of society and being buried underneath the weight and all of this physical experience seeming to be the only thing that holds me up. But you pulled the blinds in this room of mine just a little bit brighter since you came. So as we let the divine flow in, then that darker reality doesn't seem so intense. I stumble every time you do it, ain't never going to get used to it, and it repeats. Arcadia's got me running, just trying not to lose my breath, because hell, I'm going to take that step. I'm going to do it. I'm going to take that leap of faith. Seep up all the light from the bottom of the spine. So, they make it very obvious what they're talking about. From the bottom of the spine. So Jesus died at 33, quote unquote, to represent the 33 vertebrae in our spine. So we're here to fall down the chimney and go back up again. Seep up all the light from the bottom of the spine. That's like that sexual energy, the seed that grows from down low, and we energetically, magnetically cause it to rise up. Don't fret. Don't hang your head. Hold your head up high. Don't hang your head, because I'm just fine. Don't worry about the process of dying, because you're going to die. You have to die in order to live. So to let go of that. One day, all that I have to give, well, it will be sitting on your doorstep, waiting just to come on in. So when we have connected to that divine frequency, then everything else just seems like we're waiting to just come on in, to come back to that. Well, cold rooms and burning flumes, they have left me. So cold, the magnetic energy of the feminine, burning flumes, the burning fiery energy of the masculine, and both together, vapor, steam, and that's the union. So they have left me, just a little bit lesser than I'm going to be. So maybe this is referring to like the fallen state, cold rooms and burning flumes. So when our chimney is burning, we're not rising up that process. In cold rooms, as in like dead rooms, they have left me just a little bit lesser than I'm going to be. So I am said 3 times, but just a little bit lesser. So these beliefs keeping us locked down in it, perhaps. And then it repeats here about that leap of faith. Seep up all the light from the bottom of the spine. Don't fret, don't hang your head, because I'm just fine. So yeah, that's the song Arcadia. And I didn't find a way to show the lyrics as I present this one. So it's just going to be a YouTube video. But yeah, I'll play that out as we close out today. And just want to say thank you all so very much for being here, for adding to the conversation, for sharing what you did, asking any questions or any which way. Just appreciate y'all, or just being here to listen. Thank you so much for being here, and sending love out to everybody. We will continue. We've got watch party tomorrow, and then a presentation from Darth on Sunday on the religious agenda. So stay tuned for that. And yeah, sending out love, and we'll talk to you guys next time. So enjoy the song, and we'll see you then.